So this is the scene now just blocks from the White House in downtown Washington, D.C. after two members of the National Guard were shot and critically wounded this afternoon. The Guardsmen were near a bus stop outside a commuter train station when, according to police, a gunman came around the corner and intentionally targeted them. The suspect was captured by other Guard members who were nearby. Sources say the motive is unclear at this hour. Also, this just into us here at CNN. The Trump administration has just filed an emergency motion to keep the National Guard in Washington, D.C. CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez is joining us now. So, Evan, what does this mean?
Well, what the Trump administration is doing is appealing this order that came from a judge just a few days ago, siding with the D.C. Attorney General's office, which had sued the administration over the deployment of those National Guard here in Washington, D.C. Now, what the city Attorney General had filed was arguing that the administration, that the president had exceeded his authority to use and to deploy National Guard on the street of D.C. to essentially do crime fighting, to not for other purposes, including perhaps putting down an insurrection, right, which is the purpose of the National Guard in the city. And so a judge had agreed with the D.C. Attorney General's office, but had stayed the ruling for a few days to give the administration time to appeal, and that is what now has happened. The administration is saying that essentially this ruling really does interfere with the president's authority to deploy the National Guard, and it is his sole authority to be able to decide how to do that, Erica.
Okay, so as we have this new piece of the puzzle coming in here, I do also want to ask you about what unfolded this afternoon and what we know at this hour. So authorities confirming the two Guardsmen were in fact targeted. Are we learning anything more about the suspect and a potential motive, though?
At this point, they have not identified the suspect, and we don't know a motive. Certainly, the authorities have not said a motive, but the way it played out, it appears that this was an ambush. The assailant comes around and comes at a pretty high rate walking, and these guardsmen never saw him coming. He manages to fire off at least 3 shots. One of them is struck immediately. The other one struck, and both of them fall. The third guardsman, who was right there, appears eventually to have returned fire, and that's where, according to the authorities, he was struck. But look, the FBI is now very much involved in this, because what you're raising, obviously the motive, is going to be very important. Here's what the FBI Director Kash Patel said at a press conference in the last hour. Listen. Oh. Well, we don't have his sound ready, but what he was describing is simply the fact that these were federal officers that were targeted makes this an FBI investigation. Now, I can tell you this, Erica, behind the scenes, FBI is putting all of their resources into this. They are counterterrorism agents. They are people who obviously have a lot of experience in these types of environments, in like in urban settings, shootings in urban settings. So those are the resources that are being brought to bear, because they are right now trying to figure out, again, what motive could be behind this. And obviously they're going to be looking at some of the video. We know that this happened right next to the Farragut Square, which is right near the White House, just a couple blocks north of the White House. And there's a couple metro stations there, so there's very good video of everything that happened from the Washington metro system. That's what they're studying, and again, they're using all of that to try to determine what possible motive. Apparently, in his initial interaction with law enforcement, he wasn't cooperating, but obviously that it may change in the near future. In the meantime, they're trying to work to identify him and figure out whether there's anything else that this person was trying to carry out here at that scene, Erica.
All right, Evan Perez, appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Such an unsettling situation, understandably, amplified, of course, by the fact that it is the night before Thanksgiving. 2 National Guard members, again, are in critical condition at this hour. Authorities say the shooting itself was targeted, also being referred to as an ambush. This happening just steps from the White House. As we continue to follow developments in this afternoon's breaking news out of Washington, D.C., I want to bring you up to speed with what we know at this hour. 2 members of the National Guard are in critical condition after being shot this afternoon in what authorities are calling a targeted attack. In a social media post shortly after that attack, President Trump said the suspect was seriously wounded. Now, the administration has filed an emergency motion a short time ago to keep the National Guard in Washington, D.C. The president also, according to the Secretary of Defense, ordering an additional 500 National Guard troops be posted in Washington. Back with us, Donnell Harvin, former Chief of Homeland Security and Intelligence for the government of the District of Columbia. Good to have you back here. So looking at what we know at this hour, we're told this was an ambush, that it was targeted, but we do not know a motive exactly, and the suspect, we're told, is not cooperating. Given those parameters, what is happening at this moment in the investigation as law enforcement tries to get a better sense of who this person is and why this happened?
Yeah, and this is not unique to investigations. When there's no suspect or when the suspect has been killed or deceased, law enforcement is still able to backtrack their communications, their movements, and understand what their motive is. So I think motive is very important here. The individual, while he's not cooperating, they can get fingerprint from him, they can get DNA from them. And I'm sure they're running those through national and international, quite possibly, databases right now. The important thing is to understand, while we do have a suspect in custody, that there aren't other individuals that he either were planning this attack with or that may have known that this attack was happening and may be complicit in reporting this. And so that's what they're backtracking now, along with the motive, which everyone wants to know, to make sure that this is truly a lone actor.
And there is what will be incredibly helpful, and I'm sure is already helpful in this moment, even though we don't yet have the details, the sheer number of cameras that there are in Washington, D.C., the angles and what would be available to investigators in that location.
Absolutely. And Washington, D.C. is one of the most heavily surveilled cities in the world. You can't go a block or two without being caught on some private or public building CCTV. And so whether he came in through the metro, there's cameras on the metro. If he was walking on foot, there's cameras all around, especially in that downtown area. If he drove and parked somewhere nearby, there's what we call license plate readers, or LPRs, and cameras throughout the district on traffic lights. So they're going to be able to rapidly know. In fact, they probably already know who this individual is, and they're probably drawing up warrants to execute searches as we speak.
So we're looking at live pictures here. That, of course, is the White House at the top of everybody's screen there who's watching now. So for people, Donnell, who are not familiar with this area, this is in the neighborhood of 17th and I Streets. This is near the Farragut West Metro. Just give us a sense of how busy this area is at 2:15 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, how much law enforcement present there would be, given that we are just blocks from the White House. I mean, what would that look like? Who would traditionally be in that area?
That's a very busy area for law enforcement. That's what we would call the expanded patrol area for the U.S. Secret Service Uniform Division. So you'll see uniformed Secret Service officers. They patrol that area, as well as DC MPD, as well as the DC Metro, the Metro Police that ride the metro stations. Layer on top of that, the National Guard. You're not going to be able to commit a crime in that location and not have someone on top of you within 15 or 20 seconds, literally. And that's what we saw. Even though these individuals were shot, other National Guards people responded so quickly and were able to subdue this individual because that area is really dense with law enforcement.
Yeah, it is so important. Donnell Harvin, really appreciate the insight. As always, thank you.